Let's talk about the physical transition from Earth to space in respect to gravity. The average acceleration due to gravity on Earth is 9.807 meters per second squared. This exact value varies since gravity becomes weaker with distance, so places that are further away from the Earth's center will have a smaller acceleration due to gravity. For example, Mexico City has an acceleration due to gravity of 9.776 meters per second squared, while Washington, D.C. has an acceleration due to gravity of 9.801 meters per second squared. This concept can also be applied to space. It is possible for a spacecraft to go far enough from Earth that a person inside would feel very little gravity. Space has microgravity, which is sometimes called zero gravity, which can be misleading. People think that there is no gravity in space, but that's wrong. There is a small amount of gravity that can be found everywhere in space. This is what keeps our planet in orbit around the Sun, and what keeps the Sun in place in the Milky Way galaxy. These differences in gravity considerably affect a human being going into space.
Hi, I'm Captain Scott Kelly, commander of the Expedition 26 crew aboard the International Space Station. Microgravity provides a lot of difficulties for us in space. It also makes some things easier. But one of the major impacts it has is the effect on our bodies, specifically with regards to the loss of bone mass and muscle mass. One of the ways we mitigate that is with exercise, and one of the devices we use is right behind me, and it's called the Advanced Resistive Exercise Device.
If you don't exercise, you will lose muscle strength since it does not take effort to float through space. The low-gravity lifestyle does not lend itself to strong bones and muscles. On Earth, these body parts actually work a fair amount just to keep us standing still. Without the downward force of gravity, the body works considerably less, causing muscle deterioration and the loss of bone density. In a single month in space, astronauts can lose as much bone mass as a postmenopausal woman does in 1 year. To counteract these problems, astronauts exercise vigorously. Scott Kelly has exercised roughly 700 hours throughout the course of his missions. The wasting away of this lean muscle tissue is called catabolism. Catabolism is the breaking down of complex molecules into smaller ones, breaking down muscle tissue. Biopsies of 2 muscles in the calf will be used to analyze the health, the size, structure, and performance of individual cells within the muscle. Studies will also determine the mechanism of muscle fiber tearing and soreness that occurs post-flight. Biopsy is the first experiment to tackle the cellular question in long-term spaceflight. The data from this experiment will be used to illustrate the structural and metabolic changes that occur within individual muscle fiber cells. This experiment will also help to create a model that illustrates to what degree muscles deteriorate in space over time, which can be used to predict risks for long-term flight, like a trip to Mars.
Chemistry can aid space travel in producing food, materials, and fuel on these long missions. Scientists are looking to develop a strain of yeast that converts human urine and carbon dioxide into omega-3 fatty acids. This could be the first building block of space-made nutritional supplements critical for astronaut survival. Astronauts can't take a lot of spare parts into space because every extra ounce adds to the cost of fuel needed to escape Earth's gravity. The solution to this problem can be solved with the astronauts themselves, who constantly generate waste from breathing, eating, and using materials. There are research teams who are studying how to repurpose these molecules and convert them into products the astronauts need, such as nutrients. Some essential nutrients, such as omega-3 fatty acids, have a shelf life of just a couple of years. They'll need to be made en route, beginning a few years after launch or at the destination. The biological system includes a variety of strains of the yeast Urea lithica. These organisms require both nitrogen and carbon to grow. Scientists have discovered that the yeast can obtain their nitrogen from urea and the untreated urine. Meanwhile, the yeast obtain their carbon from CO2, which could come from astronauts' exhaled breath or from the Martian atmosphere. But to use CO2, the yeast require a middleman to fix the carbon into a form they can ingest. For this purpose, the yeast rely on a photosynthetic cyanobacteria, or algae produced by the researchers. One of the yeast strains produces omega-3 fatty acids, which contribute to heart, eye, and brain health. For now, the engineered yeast strains can produce only small amounts of polyesters, or nutrients, but the scientists are working on boosting output.